In the heart of the Vatican, behind the grand facade of the Church, there lies a mystery that has puzzled historians and religious scholars for centuries. A pope, one of the most influential men in the world, did something truly bizarre. He sealed his own tomb before his death. But why? What was his reasoning? Was it simply an act of control over his fate, or was there something far more sinister at play? This mystery is not just about the Pope's death, it's about the symbolic act of sealing his final resting place. Could it have been a desperate attempt to protect his soul, or perhaps to hide something far darker from the world? As we dig deeper into this enigma, we'll explore the theories, the historical context, and the powerful symbols behind this strange decision. Why would someone, especially a pope, take such drastic action? As we embark on this journey to uncover the hidden secrets of the Vatican, you'll discover things that may challenge everything you thought you knew about life, death, and the mysteries of the Church. Stick with us until the end, and you may just find that the answer to this mystery is far stranger and far darker than you ever imagined. To truly understand the significance of the Pope sealing his own tomb, we must first dive into the broader historical context of the Vatican and the Catholic Church's influence on the world, particularly in relation to death and the afterlife. The Vatican has long been a place shrouded in mystery. It's not only the spiritual heart of the Catholic Church, but also a fortress of secrets, power, and influence. For centuries, the Church has held sway over millions, shaping not just religious practices, but also societal norms, politics, and even science. But beneath its grandeur lies a much darker side, one filled with intrigue, conspiracies, and the supernatural. Historically, the Catholic Church has had a complex relationship with death. While the Church teaches about the afterlife, heaven, hell, and purgatory, the concept of death itself has always been surrounded by fear, uncertainty, and ritual. The way a pope, or any member of the clergy, faces death is not just about personal beliefs. It's tied to the weight of centuries-old traditions and a system of symbols meant to transcend the mortal world. In the case of this particular pope, his decision to seal his tomb wasn't a random act, it was deeply symbolic. The Church, over the centuries, had developed its own customs and rites surrounding death, rituals designed to protect the soul and ensure the person's place in the afterlife. But the act of sealing one's own tomb, that was something far more profound. It suggested a personal fear or belief that went beyond the teachings of the Church itself, something that even the highest authority in the Church might have been powerless to control. During this time, the idea of immortality or safeguarding the soul was particularly potent. Some popes were said to perform secretive rituals to ward off evil spirits or ensure divine protection. The Church, after all, had access to countless ancient texts and esoteric knowledge that outsiders could only imagine. But what drove this pope to seal his own tomb? Was it a reflection of his fear of death, or was there something more behind it? Something he didn't want the world to know? To answer this question, we need to explore the specific history of this pope's reign and his personal life. What were the circumstances that led him to make such a strange and unprecedented decision? The answer lies not just in the religious practices of the time, but also in the political and personal struggles that shaped the Pope's worldview. The period in which this Pope lived was one of extreme turmoil within the Church. The Vatican had faced numerous scandals, political upheavals, and even violent conflicts. At the same time, the rise of secularism and the growing influence of the outside world were beginning to challenge the Church's absolute authority. In this environment, fear of death, of the unknown, and of losing power was a constant companion. Perhaps, in his final days, this pope saw his tomb as more than just a place of rest. It could have been his last, desperate act to control his legacy, safeguard his soul, or protect something far more sinister than we can imagine. To fully understand the gravity of his actions, we need to take a closer look at his reign and the possible motivations behind his unorthodox decision. To fully grasp the gravity of the Pope's decision to seal his own tomb, it's crucial to understand the man behind the mystery. What personal beliefs, fears, or experiences could have led this powerful figure to take such an extreme action? This Pope wasn't just any religious leader. He was a man of profound influence, who navigated the turbulent waters of Vatican politics, global diplomacy, and the complex relationship between religion and state. But behind this public persona, what secrets did he carry? What made him so uniquely vulnerable to the fear of death and the unknown? In the years leading up to his death, this Pope faced intense pressure both from within the Vatican and from the outside world. There were countless scandals within the Church, from corruption to infighting among clergy. In addition, the Pope had to deal with the growing influence of secularism and political pressures that threatened to weaken the Church's authority. As these external forces mounted, one could imagine the Pope becoming increasingly fearful for his own legacy and the future of the Church. But it wasn't just external forces that could have driven him to make this drastic decision. The Pope had a deep connection to religious rituals and beliefs that went beyond the traditional doctrine. Like many figures of power, he may have had his own personal beliefs about life, death, and the afterlife, beliefs that may not have been entirely in line with the Church's teachings. The idea of sealing one's tomb could reflect a deeper existential fear, one rooted in personal experiences and internal struggles. Furthermore, it's important to consider the psychological impact of power. Leaders, especially those as influential as the Pope, often experience a profound sense of isolation and anxiety. The Pope may have feared the loss of control, not only over his position, but also over his own fate. Sealing his tomb could have been an attempt to maintain control over the one thing he could no longer influence: his death. It's possible he saw it as a way to ensure that no one could tamper with his remains. Or perhaps it was his final act of asserting his authority. Beyond the fear of death itself, some religious leaders throughout history have also feared the idea of being forgotten. The Pope may have sealed his tomb to preserve his memory, or perhaps to prevent any attempts at desecration. In many cultures, tombs were seen as sacred places, and ensuring that his final resting place remained undisturbed might have been an act of self-preservation. At the same time, the Pope's decision could have been influenced by a deep sense of humility. Despite his powerful position, perhaps he saw his own mortality as a reminder that no one, not even the Pope, is exempt from the laws of life and death. By sealing his tomb, he may have been acknowledging his own human frailty and seeking peace in a world that was increasingly hostile to the Church and its teachings. It's also worth considering the possibility that the Pope's fears weren't entirely personal. Perhaps his decision was a reaction to the growing sense of doom within the Church itself. If the Pope believed that the Church was on the brink of collapse, or that dark forces were conspiring against it, sealing his tomb might have been an attempt to protect not only his own soul, but the sanctity of the Church's legacy. As we continue to unravel this mystery, we must ask, was this act purely symbolic, or was there something more at play? Could the Pope's decision to seal his tomb reveal a deeper hidden truth about his life and his reign? And if so, what does that say about the larger mysteries surrounding the Vatican and its most powerful figures? To understand the full impact of the Pope's decision to seal his own tomb, we must delve into the rich symbolism behind this act, both from a religious and cultural perspective. Throughout history, the act of sealing one's final resting place has carried profound meaning, often tied to concepts of power, protection, and fear of the unknown. In many ancient cultures, tombs were seen as sacred spaces. They were not simply places where the dead were laid to rest, they were believed to be portals to the afterlife. The way a tomb was constructed and sealed was thought to influence the soul's journey after death. For some, sealing the tomb was a way to ensure the deceased soul would find peace, while for others it was an act of protection, keeping the spirit from wandering or being disturbed by malevolent forces. The Catholic Church, with its deep historical roots in tradition and ritual, has always placed significant importance on the concept of the afterlife. The rituals surrounding death, burial, and the preservation of the body are integral parts of the Church's teachings. For the Pope, a figure of immense religious significance, the symbolism of sealing his own tomb could have carried several layers of meaning. One possible interpretation is that the Pope's action was meant to ensure the sanctity of his soul's journey into the afterlife. By sealing his tomb, he could have been attempting to shield his remains from any form of desecration or disturbance, ensuring his peace in the afterlife. This notion ties into the ancient belief that the body must be protected from the forces of evil, which might try to prevent the soul from moving on to its final destination. Additionally, the act of sealing a tomb is often associated with a desire for control over one's fate. In a world where power and control were essential, the Pope may have seen his tomb as the last area where he could exert influence over his own death, over how he would be remembered, and over the eternal fate of his soul. This would align with the Pope's potential fear of being forgotten or abandoned after death, especially in light of the power struggles and scandals that surrounded the Church during his reign. From a symbolic standpoint, sealing the tomb could also be seen as an act of defiance against the inevitable. In a way, it could represent the Pope's resistance to the finality of death, his refusal to simply submit to fate. It's as though, in his last act, he sought to assert his dominance over death itself. This interpretation, though somewhat dramatic, aligns with the often larger-than-life persona that many religious leaders adopt. The Pope's decision may also reflect a deeply personal religious conviction. Throughout the history of the Catholic Church, leaders often carried out rituals to ensure their place in heaven. These rituals were designed to absolve sins, ask for divine favor, and protect the soul from the dangers of the afterlife. By sealing his tomb, the Pope may have been engaging in one last sacred act to secure his eternal peace. The symbolism of sealing a tomb goes beyond mere protection, though. It also carries connotations of secrecy. In many cultures, sealed tombs were used to hide something, whether it be valuables, secrets, or knowledge that needed to be kept hidden from the world. Could the Pope's tomb have been sealed to conceal something far more profound? Perhaps there were documents, treasures, or even religious artifacts hidden away, intended to remain undiscovered by future generations. The idea that the Pope might have been trying to keep something from being unearthed raises the possibility that there is more to this mystery than we can even imagine. No mystery surrounding a religious figure is ever complete without the emergence of conspiracy theories. The sealing of the Pope's tomb has long been the subject of speculation, with many wondering if there was more to this act than met the eye. Could there have been hidden motives, or perhaps an unspoken agenda that has remained shrouded in secrecy? It's time to explore the numerous conspiracy theories that have arisen around this enigmatic event. One of the most intriguing theories is the possibility that the Pope sealed his tomb, not merely as a personal act of control or faith, but as a response to external pressures. The Vatican has often been accused of secrecy and corruption, with many suggesting that the Pope's actions were meant to prevent certain sensitive information from coming to light. Some believe that the sealing of the tomb could have been an attempt to hide documents or evidence that could have jeopardized the Vatican's standing in the world, or exposed scandals within the Church. What if the Pope knew that his death would ignite a power struggle within the Vatican? The Church has always been a political entity as much as a religious one, and the Pope's decision to seal his tomb could have been a way to prevent any attempts to manipulate his death for political gain. Could it have been a final act of defiance against those who sought to control the Church's future, ensuring that no one could alter his legacy after he was gone? Another conspiracy theory suggests that the Pope's decision to seal his tomb was tied to a hidden treasure or secret that the Vatican has long tried to protect. For centuries, rumors have swirled about lost religious artifacts, hidden treasures, or secret knowledge locked away within the Vatican. Could the Pope have been trying to prevent future generations from discovering something that would shake the very foundation of the Church? Some even speculate that the tomb itself might contain ancient relics, powerful documents, or treasures that were deemed too dangerous to be exposed. The possibility of an occult connection has also been proposed. Some believe that the Pope, in his final days, may have been involved in secret religious practices that went beyond the public teachings of the Church. There are whispers of a hidden society within the Vatican, one that delves into the occult and forbidden knowledge. Could the Pope have been part of this secretive group? And did sealing his tomb serve as a way to protect the secrets of the Church from being uncovered? Some theorists argue that the Pope's act was connected to a prophecy or an ancient religious prediction. The Catholic Church has a long history of prophecies, many of which are said to be tied to the future of the Church and the fate of humanity. Was the sealing of the tomb an effort to safeguard the Church against a foretold disaster? Could the Pope have known something that the rest of the world was unaware of? And did he seal his tomb as a way to protect the Church from an impending crisis? In addition to these theories, there are those who believe that the Pope's actions were influenced by external forces beyond his control. Some claim that the Vatican itself is part of a larger global conspiracy, and that the Pope's decision was orchestrated by powerful individuals or organizations with a hidden agenda. These theorists argue that the sealing of the tomb was part of a broader plan to control the flow of information and ensure that certain truths remain buried. While these conspiracy theories are all speculative, they shed light on the complex and mysterious nature of the Pope's decision. The secrecy surrounding the Vatican, coupled with the Pope's own influential position, invites speculation from every corner. Were these theories born out of mere imagination, or is there a kernel of truth to them? The questions raised by these conspiracy theories force us to confront the darker side of power, secrecy, and religion. They suggest that there may be forces at play within the Vatican that are far beyond what we see on the surface. And as we continue to explore the hidden truths of this papal mystery, we are left to wonder, what was the Pope truly trying to protect? And what, if anything, are we still in the dark about? As we continue to peel back the layers surrounding the Pope's sealed tomb, we begin to uncover the possibility of hidden truths that have been deliberately kept out of sight. What exactly lies beneath the stone and seal? What are the dark secrets that the Pope might have intended to protect by closing himself off from the rest of the world? One of the most fascinating possibilities is the idea that the sealed tomb might hold items of profound historical, religious, or political significance. It has long been rumored that the Vatican harbors hidden relics, documents, and artifacts, some of which could radically alter our understanding of history and religion. Could the Pope have sealed his tomb to safeguard something of immense value, knowledge, or power? Perhaps a document, a letter, or a religious artifact existed that had the potential to challenge the teachings of the Church or disrupt its long-standing narrative. If such a document were to be discovered, it could unravel centuries of doctrine and tradition. The idea of a powerful religious secret hidden within the tomb is not new. Over the centuries, many have speculated about the existence of secret texts or scrolls, some even suggesting the possibility of a hidden gospel that could rewrite the foundations of Christianity itself. These theories often point to the Gnostic Gospels, lost writings that challenge the conventional biblical canon. If the Pope was aware of such documents, sealing his tomb could have been an effort to prevent their exposure to the world, ensuring that these texts remained hidden from the public eye. Another compelling possibility is the presence of hidden treasures, gold, jewels, or sacred objects that were intended to remain undisturbed. Throughout history, it's been rumored that powerful religious leaders, including the Vatican, have collected immense wealth. Could the Pope's sealed tomb be a way to protect a hidden treasure trove, one that could attract thieves, political adversaries, or greedy institutions if it were ever discovered. This theory would make sense, considering the immense value of religious artifacts and relics in Catholic tradition, and the Pope, as the leader of the Church, would have been entrusted with the security of such precious items. However, the hidden truths could go deeper than mere material wealth. There are those who believe the Pope's sealed tomb was meant to conceal darker, more nefarious secrets, something far more dangerous than any treasure. Could it have been a means of protecting the Church's most controversial decisions and actions? Perhaps documents that reveal hidden scandals, misdeeds, or corruption within the Church itself, actions that would severely damage its credibility and authority if brought to light. Some even speculate that the sealed tomb contains evidence of dealings with external forces, such as powerful political or financial institutions, that would shake the public's perception of the Vatican and the Pope's true role in global affairs. There are also theories that point toward a more supernatural or occult connection. Throughout history, many religious leaders and figures in power have been rumored to have dabbled in esoteric practices or occult rituals, believing they could gain insight into forbidden knowledge. Could the Pope's actions have been tied to these practices? Perhaps the sealing of the tomb was an act to protect not just physical treasures, but to keep hidden occult objects or religious rituals that were never meant to be revealed. If the Pope was involved in secret rites or held knowledge of dark religious practices, he may have sealed his tomb to ensure these secrets stayed locked away forever. It's also worth considering that the tomb might have been sealed to protect the Pope from something else entirely, his own legacy. The Pope, as a figure of immense religious and political power, would have been fully aware of the lasting impact of his actions, both during his life and after his death. If there were any controversial or divisive aspects of his reign, the Pope may have seen the sealing of his tomb as a way to prevent future generations from unearthing something that could tarnish his reputation or the Church's image. By sealing his tomb, he could have ensured that future leaders and historians would not have access to information that could damage his carefully cultivated legacy. In some ways, the Pope's decision to seal his tomb could be seen as the final act of a man who had everything to lose. Whether it was protecting religious secrets, safeguarding wealth, or keeping a dark history hidden from the world, the tomb became more than just a burial site. It became a vault of secrets, one that once sealed would keep its contents buried for generations to come. As we consider the possible contents of the sealed tomb, we are faced with more questions than answers. What could the Pope have been hiding? What did he know that we don't? And more importantly, why did he feel the need to protect these secrets with such intensity? The sealed tomb has become a symbol of the unknown, a place where the darkest truths of the Vatican may still lie hidden, waiting to be discovered. As we come to the final chapter of this exploration, it's important to step back and consider the broader implications of the Pope's sealed tomb. Beyond the mystery and speculation, what does this act truly mean for the Church, both historically and in the context of modern-day faith? The Pope's final decision to seal his tomb has far-reaching consequences, not just for those who follow his path, but for the entire institution of the Catholic Church. To understand the legacy of this decision, we must first acknowledge the role the Pope plays within the Catholic Church. He is seen as the spiritual leader of over 1 billion people worldwide, a figure of immense authority and influence. His actions, both in life and in death, send powerful messages about his relationship to God, to his followers, and to the very institution he represents. The act of sealing his tomb was not just an ordinary decision. It was a profound statement about control, secrecy, and the preservation of the Church's power. In a broader sense, the Pope's sealed tomb symbolizes the Church's ongoing struggle with power and transparency. The Catholic Church has long been a bastion of mystery and secrecy, with many of its inner workings shrouded in a veil of confidentiality. From the Vatican archives to the papal conclave, secrecy is a fundamental part of the Church's operations. The Pope's decision to seal his tomb adds another layer to this mystique, reinforcing the idea that the Church's inner secrets are protected from the public eye. But what does this mean for the Church today? For one, it raises questions about transparency and accountability. As modern society becomes increasingly secular, the Catholic Church has had to grapple with a loss of influence and trust. Scandals, financial controversies, and debates over doctrine have led many to question the Church's authority. The sealed tomb, in this context, becomes a symbol of the Church's reluctance to confront its past and to allow full transparency into its practices. It highlights the ongoing tension between the Church's need for control and its struggle to adapt to a world that demands openness and honesty. Furthermore, the Pope's sealed tomb serves as a stark reminder of the Church's powerful legacy and the potential consequences of that power. Throughout history, the Catholic Church has been an institution of immense influence, shaping the course of nations and the lives of millions. The act of sealing the tomb, in some ways, encapsulates the way the Church has historically managed its influence, carefully curating the information it shares, protecting its image, and controlling the narrative. In a modern world that values free speech, transparency, and the exposure of secrets, the Pope's sealed tomb stands as a testament to the enduring power of this institution to keep its mysteries buried. The legacy of this tomb also impacts how we view the Pope as a figure of faith. To many, the Pope represents a direct link to God's will on earth, a living embodiment of the Church's teachings. But by sealing his tomb in such a deliberate and mysterious way, the Pope transforms into something else, an enigmatic figure whose actions are open to interpretation. This leaves room for both reverence and suspicion. The sealed tomb creates a paradox. A man who dedicated his life to serving God, yet chose to withhold certain aspects of his life and death from the world. It challenges our understanding of what it means to be a leader of faith, raising questions about the true nature of the Pope's mission and whether there was more to his role than simply guiding the faithful. For those who view the Pope's actions as part of a larger pattern of secrecy and control within the Church, the sealed tomb represents a closing of the door on truth. It suggests that there are things about the Church that remain hidden and will continue to be concealed, even after the Pope's death. For others, the sealing of the tomb could be seen as an act of faith, a final gesture of devotion that ensures his eternal rest remains undisturbed. In either case, the Pope's sealed tomb becomes a symbol of the tension between faith and the unknown, between transparency and secrecy. In the end, the legacy of the Pope's sealed tomb is far from resolved. The mystery surrounding it continues to captivate the imagination of people around the world, inviting speculation, debate, and even awe. It forces us to confront the complex relationship between religion, power, and secrecy. It challenges us to ask difficult questions about the role of the Church in modern society and the lengths to which those in power will go to preserve their authority. As the Catholic Church continues to evolve in the face of modern challenges, the Pope's sealed tomb remains a powerful reminder of the institution's ability to keep its secrets locked away. It is a testament to the enduring power of the Church's mystique, its ability to control the narrative, and its ongoing struggle to reconcile its ancient traditions with the demands of a changing world. But perhaps the most profound impact of the sealed tomb lies in the lessons it offers. The story of the Pope who sealed his own fate is one of intrigue, secrecy, and mystery, but it is also a story about the power of human agency. In the end, the Pope's decision was a reflection of his control over his own legacy, and that act of control continues to shape the way we view the Church and its place in the world today. And as we continue to search for answers, One thing is clear: the sealed tomb will remain a symbol of the unknown, a reminder that even in the world of the Vatican, some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved.